This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World with Jeff Jarrett, the Hall of Famer himself. Jeff, how are you, man?
Hello, Mr. Conrad Thompson.
Man, I'm excited.
How you doing? Look, you're taking the lead on this thing. A bit overwhelmed from this past 72 hours, but I'm ready to do episode 2.
I'm ready to do it too. But before we do, I want to circle back to last week. Of course, it was probably the topic everybody wanted to hear the most. We called it the hold up. It was all about your last night in the WWF in 1999. And man, I thought we sort of tied up all the loose ends on there, but we got a ton of follow-up questions. And to no surprise, I guess the biggest thing that people were asking about is Jim Ross. And I think that I saw, a handful of tweets who just assumed that you and Jim are cross and still have heat, brother. 55 Simon says, when did Jeff and Jim Ross next cross paths? From a quick scan of the timeline, Jeff would be rejoining WWE just as JR was leaving. Lots of people want to know, is there heat these days? Have you seen Jim Ross since? Are you guys cross? Chat me up.
And see, that's one of the fascinating things, Conrad, that sort of diving into the podcast world is, I think Eric likes to call it the narrative and just different contexts. And I think human nature is we all have very short memories or selective memory. But there was this little event in 2015 called Wrestle Kingdom 9.
Yep.
That New Japan Pro Wrestling approached me about taking it to pay-per-view. And me and you have had these conversations offline, but we'll tell the My World listeners, the main event for Wrestle Kingdom 9, in my eyes, although AJ Styles and Tanahashi and Okada and the Bullet Club and the Bucks, and I mean, what a loaded card and what a red hot product. But for me, I selected Jim Ross as the main event. So me and Jim, look, it was business in.
Hey, wait, hang on, timeout. You're skipping over a lot here. You were working with getting that program on Fight for the first time. And so I think when you're saying, well, I made him the main event, you mean in terms of pay-per-view promotion. You weren't necessarily working for New Japan at the time, but this was newfound territory for New Japan to have their event broadcast live here in America on Fight and with an English commentary, which had never been done before, right?
See, this is why you're the podfather. You clean things up and make sure the story. Yes, that is accurate. So, New Japan Pro Wrestling in Japan was red hot. They wanted to take their early stages, and they've done on different levels with WCW back in the day, but they wanted to take their product globally. And I'd gone over there a couple of times and as a on-screen character, joined the Bullet Club. But no, taking the product and putting it on pay-per-view in English commentary, we were going to do that, not just on Fight, but on In Demand, on DirecTV, on Dish Network. I mean, every pay-per-view home in North America, as well as back in those days, it was called Flips. And there's a whole episode on Flips, this event alone turned Flips into Fight TV. But anyway, JR, the voice of wrestling. And so, going back to 1999, it was business. And I knew it was business. And to this day, I don't know if Vince McMahon told Jim Ross cut his pay. I don't really know. It's kind of irrelevant. Jim was obviously the messenger. It is what it is. It was what it was. But no, me and Jim Ross worked together on Wrestle Kingdom 9. There's another story that comes along right in the middle of all this is World of Sport, ITV, the rebirth of that in 2017 or 2016 into 17. That I really thought there was going to be a huge opportunity, but WWE got wind of it. They brought Jim and gave him his jersey back, was Jim's quote, I believe. The people at ITV, as well as myself, were devastated that we lost Jim. He was going to be a huge part of that product. NXT UK was somewhat launched off the heels of the ITV product. So me and Jim worked together in 2015, had multiple conversations and basically kept a running conversation. Jim is a guy that through the Japan trip, and Conrad, I don't even know if you know this story, but through the Japan trip, Karen went with me, and the dynamic of Jeff and Karen and the blended family and 5 kids, and his agent Barry Bloom asked Jim, "Hey Jim, do you know any couples that might have a blended family or might have basically a somewhat of a normal day job, soccer mom, corporate dad, but then they have extracurricular activities?" And Jim said, "Barry, hell, do I think I know one? I just got off a flight with them." So Jim not introduced me to Barry, but that whole connection, which later introduced me, I'm telling you, there's 6 degrees of Jeff Jarrett in so many ways. Jim, through Barry, introduced me to Arthur Smith. He's the executive producer of Hell's Kitchen and Ninja Warrior. And also he was my partner in Global Force Wrestling. So me and Jim have worked together. There's zero heat and hasn't been. Was that long-winded? I apologize.
You're the new Eric Bischoff there. You're the new Eric Bischoff. I asked you what time it was. You told me how to make a watch, but we got the answer, right? There's no heat. And by the way, that Wrestle Kingdom, pretty impressive card. Tanahashi and Okada on top, Nakamura and Ibushi right underneath for the IWGP Intercontinental. AJ was working with Naito. Of course, Kenny Omega's on the card. There's a lot of talent on that show. And
I can't wait to do that episode. Seriously.
I'm with you in that. I had not seen a New Japan Wrestle Kingdom live until Jim Ross was doing commentary. And when I was asking you about that off air, I don't know, a few weeks ago, you were explaining to the folks who were helping produce the spot. And I think it's, as you refer to him, Sully, Kevin Sullivan, not the devil, the guy who makes TV in Nashville, who these days is working with AEW. And he didn't really get what you were looking for in terms of the promotion and the teasers. And you said, as far as I'm concerned, Jim Ross is the main event. And I'm sure some New Japan fans these days would take great issue with that. But the reality is it got people like me who knew that New Japan had great wrestling, but didn't really understand all the names of the characters or their personas or their movesets or their stories. I needed somebody to sort of give me the lyrics, and who better than Jim Ross? And I bought that show and was immediately hooked, and I never missed it on Access, et cetera, et cetera. So I became a big New Japan fan because Jim Ross did commentary there. And to your credit, that was kind of your idea, and you saw the vision for that, and you were right.
And you just hit on something, and we'll move on past this. But JR said a line, and we both got marketing minds. But as a build up to Wrestle Kingdom 9, JR said, "The wrestlers write the music, I write the lyrics."
Yeah.
And that is so accurate. And JR sat out at ringside for a 5-hour show, never took a bathroom break, unproduced, didn't have somebody in his ear. He took that. I mean, those are one of those nights when it's over. Sometimes, and certainly that night, I just went, wow, Tanahashi isn't good. He's great. But also when I got home and got to hear JR's, the replay of it, you just go, that's why he's the greatest voice in wrestling. And that's a really, really good event.
Well, let's get to why we're here today. Of course, last week we talked about the holdup, and now you know your answer. No heat with Jim Ross and Jeff Jarrett. I saw some people joking online that, oh, if Conrad ever does StarCast again, they're going to have a fight. No, we're not. There's no heat, brother. We're all on adfreeshows.com, and you can get all our shows early and ad free. And
I'd love to have a debate with JR up about it. Say, Jim,
will you stop? Look at you just stirring it up.
I'm kidding. It was, hey, but let me ask you this. You just again referred to it as the holdup. Do you think I know that's a headline for you.
It's the name of the episode. We named the episodes, Jeff. So episode 1 is the holdup.
But was it really a holdup?
Yeah, you used a pea shooter. We talked about it last week. It's in the archive. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.